If you've been following the ETF space lately, you probably noticed a new name that's been turning heads, the Roundhill MSTW ETF. And it's not just making noise, it's making payouts. Massive payouts. Roundhill just announced the latest distribution of $1.39 per share, and that's not a typo. This ETF is currently showing a distribution rate of around 174%, which almost sounds unreal in the world of finance. So today, we're diving deep into the question, is MSTW the best weekly Bitcoin dividend ETF out there? Let's start with the basics. What exactly is MSTW? The full name is the Roundhill MicroStrategy Weekly Pay ETF, ticker symbol MSTW. Launched in late July 2025, this ETF is brand new, but it's already making waves. The fund is designed to provide investors with weekly income distributions tied closely to the performance of MSTR, the publicly traded company that's become famous for holding massive amounts of Bitcoin on its balance sheet. In fact, MSTW's portfolio is dominated by MSTR, with about 74% weight in the stock, while the rest includes a smaller allocation, like 15% directly in MicroStrategy itself, and a bit in other related positions. The result? This ETF is essentially a Bitcoin proxy, packaged in a weekly dividend-paying structure. Now here's the part that makes MSTW so different: those weekly payouts. Most investors are used to dividends arriving quarterly, or if you're lucky, monthly. But MSTW takes it to another level, paying shareholders every single week. And the currently announced distribution is a monster. If you do the math, one payout of that size already makes it stand out. But what really grabs attention is the stated distribution rate of 174%. That's not just high. That's astronomical by ETF standards. Of course, the big question is, how does MSTW pull this off? And this is where investors need to pay close attention. MSTW isn't just holding MicroStrategy stock and clipping dividends. Because let's be honest, MSTR doesn't pay dividends itself. Instead, MSTW is actively using an options-based strategy, specifically derivatives and financial engineering tied to MSTR, to generate income. The ETF structure is designed to harvest the extreme volatility of MicroStrategy's stock, which often swings massively in price because of its tight connection to Bitcoin. In simple terms, MSTW is taking those wild price movements and turning them into a steady stream of cash payouts for investors. Now, if you're watching this, you might be thinking, is this yield sustainable? That's the million-dollar question. And the truth is, it's way too early to know for sure. This ETF was only launched at the end of July 2025. While weekly dividends looks incredible on paper, there are always risks. The sustainability of that payout depends on how well the ETF's option strategy continues to generate cash and how volatile MicroStrategy and Bitcoin remain. If Bitcoin suddenly stabilizes or if MSTR stock calms down, those juicy weekly payouts could shrink. On the flip side, if volatility stays high, then MSTW could continue to deliver eye-popping yields for some time. What's also worth noting is that MSTW currently has around $67 million in assets under management, which is relatively small compared to bigger ETFs. That's normal for a newly launched product, but it also means this fund is still proving itself and building its investor base. The small size can be both a risk and an opportunity. Risk because smaller funds sometimes struggle to scale. Opportunity because early investors get a front-row seat to how the strategy plays out in real time. The headline yield might sound like free money, but there's no such thing as a free lunch in investing. MSTW's payouts come from a strategy that relies heavily on volatility, and volatility cuts both ways. If MicroStrategy stock crashes, the fund's income strategy could face serious pressure. And because this ETF is still brand new, we don't have years of data to judge how it performs in different market conditions. This is why it's critical to approach MSTW with both excitement and caution. Now let's imagine for a second, if you were to put $100,000 into MSTW at around $41.62 per share, that gives you roughly 2,402 shares. At the current payout of $1.39 per share, That would mean more than $3,000 per week in distributions. Multiply that by 4 weeks, and you're talking over $12,000 per month. Again, this is purely theoretical and based on the announced payout, but you can see why people are buzzing about this ETF. Numbers like that can feel life-changing, almost too good to be true. And that's why skepticism is healthy here, because the market has a way of balancing out these kinds of opportunities. If the income is that attractive, risk is hiding somewhere in the background. So, is MSTW the best weekly Bitcoin dividend ETF? Honestly, it just might be, but it's also one of the riskiest. The potential for weekly income that beats anything else on the market right now is undeniable. But the risks of volatility, sustainability, and the ETF's newness cannot be ignored. It's a bold experiment by Roundhill, and it's already making history with one of the highest distribution rates we've ever seen in an ETF. For investors willing to stomach the risk, MSTW could be an exciting play. For others, it might be worth just watching from the sidelines to see how this story unfolds. So that's the breakdown. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to MoneyStick Unfiltered, and let me know in the comments what you think about MSTW. Would you take the plunge with this ETF, or are the risks just too high?